Good evening. Well, the February 6th meeting of the Hartland Selectboard Order at 5:35. The first order of business was the not on the agenda minutes. We have minutes. I would entertain a motion to accept those.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, great. Any discussion?
The third, it says I need a motion to accept, and to accept the minutes,
ACC.
accept the warrant.
Okay, I'll fix it.
And there's a missing N on, let's see. Well, which one is it? The last one of January 17th.
Where is it?
Mandy made a motion to adjourn the meeting. MOTIO and. Yeah.
Right, Paul.
Yep.
Any other changes, observations? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. We have a motion to accept the invoices / orders up to February the 6th.
I move we accept the orders up to, and invoices up to February 6th, 2023.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mary. Any discussion?
Just one quick question. So it's just looking at the fuel usage, and it looks like the Martin Memorial Building using about as much oil as Damon. And so I'm just wondering if that doesn't actually get used with the heat just kind of.
I'm going to guess that part of it may be that the amount of times that Martin Memorial gets filled compared to Damon Hall is probably 3 to 1. Like that gets filled less often than Damon Hall, but when it does get filled, it's going to be inexpensive.
I would make a comment in the same area as Jim just did. Once again, looking at the fuel and other energy costs, it's just staggering.
I had a question about electricity, because I know back in the war, they're in there every month. Their electric bill was 56, and North Hartland School was 89.
Yeah, I talked to Martin a little bit about this. We think it might be the furnace. Part of that might be the furnace. Last time I noticed it running a little bit higher than what it has been in the past. We had found that someone had been spending some time in there. So we kind of fixed that, but I'll have Rob take a look, kind of drive out there now.
Okay, just another observation. Is the attorney O'Toole received some payments for delivery delinquent taxes? I guess I had been under the impression that he was stepping away.
So this dates back to kind of the very beginning. He's got a little bit of a catch up on his part. The demand letter, the initial letter that he sends out, it's $25 per letter for him to get that going.
Yes.
In this case, we had maybe 10 letters that we sent out, 8 to 10. 10 might be a little bit high. A lot of them ended up being taken care of by the delinquent tax money that was available to people in state, and it wasn't pursued beyond the original demand letter. $25 per demand letter, so that's kind of catch up stuff on that. And don't forget, it's been 3 weeks since we've done one of these. So some of this looks like it's like, why on earth we're talking about this stuff, but a lot of these date back to early January, these invoices.
Jim, Clark, Wendy, any additional here?
No.
All in favor, say aye. I believe we have one adjustment to the agenda. We have a Mayor Campbell request. Are there any other adjustments to the agenda? Okay. Moving on to public comments. Are there any comments? We're on a roll. Oh, I'm sorry, yes. Is there?
No, nobody online has a question or comment.
Okay, moving on to the business, we have the certificate of no appeals of suits pending. Okay, or
I will immediately allow Stacy or one of the other listeners to comment on this. It's a yearly thing, and they can explain technically what it's all about better than I can.
Good evening. So yes, this is an annual or potentially an annual requirement by state statute. The second Tuesday of February each year, if there are no pending appeals or no pending suits against the previous year's grand list, then the select board members and the board of listers are required to sign this certificate and attach it, but actually turn it over to the clerk's office, where it is then attached to the copy of the grand list for that year, which basically makes the grand list sort of valid in court, as you noted by my letter. Sort of says that this is, you know, it can't be really kind of challenged.
so if you
Yep.
refresh my memory, is this a calendar year or fiscal year?
Which year are you talking about? The grand list year?
What we're about to sign.
So this is for the grand list year. So this is for the 2022 as-built grand list is what it refers to. So no, it falls to assessment years, which is, you know, that the 2022 grand list year went from April 1st, 2021 to March 31st, 2022.
Any questions? Here,
So is this typical? I can't remember, like, that there aren't any suits?
We had a couple of years when I first started here in the Lister's office, where we had suits pending and appeals pending. So actually, I think this is only the second year. I think last year was the first year, and this is the second year where we haven't had any pending appeals or suits. Appeals being if we have any, usually not BCA appeals, it's usually if anybody appeals to the state level, those often carry over into the spring or summer of the following year. So if somebody there were no BCA appeals this year either. So we only had 15 grievances and no BCA appeals. So therefore nothing was taken further because you have to go through BCA before you can take it to court or take it to the director of the PBR.
So what's your conclusion about this then? That there's, you know, does that mean the assessments are more accurate, people are more?
It doesn't necessarily have to do with the accuracy of the assessments. I would say one, you always have the couple of years following a townwide reappraisal, you have more appeals in general. I mean, you have quite a few the first year, a fair amount the next year, and still a few carryovers the following year. I would just like to think that hopefully we're, tuned in and more accurate. There's not a whole lot of adjustments going on, only when people are, making significant changes to their property or building things. So there's not a whole lot of change in value. As far as the accuracy of assessments, by our CLA, we're obviously below fair market value, but, you know, they're on target for what it was supposed to be in 2019.
So this is good. I mean, that's what.
This is good right
Yeah.
now, yes.
Thanks.
I like that translation too. Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Stacy. I just need to sign and,
Yep, and then, when you guys have signed it, we'll take it, and we'll sign it and turn it over to the town clerk.
Who fills that on? Do they fill that in or we? I know.
They'll fill it in when Brian finishes with it. So, yeah, the top's all filled in already, so it'll just be attested and signed. The listers need to sign it.
Wow.
okay, great. Our next agenda item is a very preliminary discussion on safety and policing. To put the now familiar context in front of us, the Vermont State Police have a contract with our town, and they have not been able to meet the hours that are expected for that contract. So we, Judge Singer, Dave, and I met with the commander of the state police 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, I think it's 3 though.
And he discussed at that time that this change was coming. And they had a couple of model projects, but we haven't heard too much about those. We did follow up with the Waterbury one. So tonight, I just would like to begin a general discussion and then present what I think, how we can go about a larger discussion with both forming a committee and actually having a town-wide discussion as well. So I'll open it up to my colleagues.
And if you want to hear from us, we're here.
Oh,
We're here. If you have questions or,
I did check with Brian. And,
I mean, I'll come up and talk if you'd like to hear, I mean, kind of.
I think Brian, that we will call on you, and we also have our constable here too, that I would like to hear, thoughts on. And Judge Singer as well, because I know this is near and dear to.
I have a question.
Yes.
So were you on the committee a number of years ago?
Yes, what I did was I went with Phil and David and we went up and,
No,
To go-
years ago, like with
Yes.
Tom White?
yes, those years
Were
ago.
you on
No.
I know I look young, but it was years ago.
there? Okay.
And we went up to, State Police Headquarters in Waterbury and we sort of negotiated, correct me if I'm wrong, negotiated preliminary contract with the state police. At that time, they did indicate that they were short of personnel. That hasn't improved too much. I mean, they're up a little bit, but they're probably 50 or 60 troopers below what they need. And they've indicated that if we could do better elsewhere, we should, because and I don't want to speak for anybody. I'm now in charge. I have to be careful about that.
Right.
But the numbers may speak for themselves. I think last month they only gave us a couple of hours of, and Phil, how many hours a week was it that they're?
I don't know exactly, but it's been dwindling over time.
So what I was referring to is, years ago, there was a committee based, Tom White was on, I don't know, I think for the three towns, named Windsor, West Windsor, and Hartland. And it was all about regional policing. And it just-
I testified before some of the state representatives that was asked to, I met with Donna, I can't remember who that
Sweeney, yeah.
Yeah, with some significant reservations about changing municipal police departments and the whole interplay between municipal, state, and county. It just seemed like there was not enough support in the legislature, and that's the take back I got from those.
So I'm just wondering if the notes are available for that. Do you have any idea?
I could look through my papers at home files, and I might have some indication, at least the handwritten notes, maybe the written notes.
Yeah, because I
And
would.
by the way, I'm willing to supply those to you, because it predates my work as a judge, so it predates, and it's historically probably close to correct. Probably.
They did a lot of work.
Yeah, I'd like to, if it's possible, something that shows up in the files, that would be,
You think there would be anything?
I haven't seen it. I know Mr. Kennedy was involved a little bit in some discussions between Windsor and Weathersfield, and
Oh, it was Weathersfield.
trying to bridge a regional policing, and for political reasons, it kind of fell apart. Think like whose name was gonna be on the door, it was kind of a
Yes.
major problem with that whole thing.
It was, yeah.
And then a couple of years ago, maybe 4 at this point, 4.5 years ago, the state did contemplate applying a little pressure to the towns to essentially provide equal policing across municipalities, which means that towns had to come up with their own police force, or look toward regional policing, or look towards another municipality like Hartford or Windsor or something like that, in order to provide some consistency, because Hartland falls in this boat at the moment. There's towns that don't have policing and towns that do. And those that don't do get picked up by the Vermont State Police. However, you spread out, there's only 2 or 3 cars on for the particular region. I forget how many towns Royalton has at the moment, I was to say 15, and they're spread out and they'll go where needed to go. They will come to Hartland at maybe 5 minutes, and maybe 35 minutes, depending on what's going on. So no matter what, there is Vermont State Police coverage, but it is macro coverage at best, and certainly not ideal for emergency situations if you're on a pre-pot road and something's happening to you. So that's kind of what we're looking at. In the past, Vermont State Police has provided coverage since I've been here, and I don't know how many years prior. You guys did look at this a little bit more in depth as a town as well. Spent a little bit. Vermont State Police has been the go-to department, but again, they are struggling in this area, and we prefer, if this goes away, they're not going to shed any tears. Leaving us with, historically, has been 2 options, unless we come up with something very creative, which is Town of Windsor. And Ryan Palmer has come forth as the new sheriff with kind of a new model from the sheriffs. In the past, it's been kind of just a ticket writing exercise for the sheriffs. Sheriff Palmer's envisioning more of your ordinary or more customary police coverage that Windsor or Hartford.
I actually spent some time this past week just thinking about public safety and what we may want. And this is still Bobby talking, not the town talking right now. In my searches, I found 2 models. One was a community partnership and a problem-solving model. And the other was what we typically know as patrolling, which is a reactive, and calls for service. So those two, I think, are what we're used to today primarily. Why do we need policing? We have laws to enforce. We'd like that to be happening. We would like to prevent and detect and investigate any criminal activities, which we do know happen in our town. I'm not too worried about maintaining public order, but that seems to pop up quite a bit. I mean, we're a small rural town, and that's not really big. Some of the challenges as we begin to think about this are, we are a large rural area. I mean, to get from my house to Jim's house is, you may as well pack a lunch, you know, it's kind of a few miles.
If you're flanking.
I don't have any back there.
I was gonna say, that outside the window last time.
Our very talented town manager reminds me of the very small budget that we have right now. 65,000, I think it is. So there's going to be an impact if we want to change. How much of an impact, I don't really know at this point. We have physical and health hazards. We're surrounded by fentanyl, and goodness knows what the current drugs are, right? I'm happily naive a little bit. And we have an increase in public service calls. I've spoken before about our emergency services are having repeat calls to try to tackle issues of loneliness. When people talk about this, there's been for a number of years now a state of thinking where people are beginning to say, what are the social determinants of health? And I would beg to say that these certainly play into the issues of safety in our community. I mean, these are conditions where people are born, they live, they learn, they work, they play, they worship, and age. And all of that affects a wide range of health and quality of life and risks. There's economic stability, education, the quality and the access of education, healthcare access and equality. What kind of neighborhood do people live in? I mean, we sometimes I think have a halo effect of just how strong our neighborhoods are. I feel I live in a very strong neighborhood that plays into the health and safety. And then finally, just the broader social community aspects, how do people come together? So what I would like to do is to create a committee after town meeting that would be made up of 2 select board members, our town manager, and a number of citizens, and ask them to come up with really what does safety mean for Hartland? What do we want? And let's shoot for what we want before we have the realistic reality of the budget. We may not be able to afford what we want, but let's identify what that is. I feel this is important enough, and I'm looking to my colleagues for confirmation that we do have a townwide meeting. We can have it facilitated by, I'm sure 2 members would step up to do that. But I think it's important as we face this juncture, it's an opportunity. I see it as an opportunity for us to sort of say, what do we need today? What would we like to have? and record that and begin to work on that. So that's what I did last week. Thoughts? I'll open it up to the floor if anyone has any comments. Stacey?
Do you envision having a member of the school board be involved in this committee, since a lot of,
Yes.
yeah, okay.
I'm going
To kind of
to
tie in
the school visioning project tomorrow night, and I'm certainly I'm trying to stay in touch with that process, including their SRO.
Yeah.
School
Yes,
resource
resource
officer.
yes.
Does it extend remotely?
Yeah, only because I know there's some, obviously, need to address, which is why they opted to go the direction they have right now, so.
Yeah, and people follow the Upper Valley News, and in the Upper Valley, there's still tension between do we want security officers or do we not want them in the school. So it's just
I might add that no matter which way they go, the state police will still make BCI, Bureau of Criminal Investigation, to any town, even if it is a 20-man department or a 2-man department.
right.
That won't be taken away from you. Their ability to respond on a timely level, again, is descending. So it's there, but it's
Right.
now offsetting that. Bill Sorrell is now, our former Attorney General, is now head of the academy. And this plan to upgrade officers both in health, people with mental health problems, and also a lot of things that would bring officers to the fore that are better suited to be members of a small police department in small towns,
Right.
whether that be sheriffs or whatever. Sheriffs, these gentlemen are here, and they might speak to that. So we're in better shape in terms of getting help. Is it going to be perfect? I don't know. It'd be foolish of me to guess, but I think it will be better. For those of you who don't know, I was a police officer myself for 20 years here. And there's crime in this town. There's crime. There was a shooting in my driveway 2 years ago between Tom White's house and a shooting, a drug-related shooting. I love my wife. I love my neighbors. I want to see as much deterrent as I can.
Sure.
That's enough of my speech. I thank you for the time.
No, I think we all have situations where there's been robberies. I've gone home from a select board meeting on a Monday night and couldn't turn onto Draper Road because the state police were launching something. You know, there were at least 5 or 6 cars, and they were putting on their bullet vests and getting out the rifles, and I was told to go home, and I did. But it's around us. Clyde, any thoughts? Andy, Jim?
No, you have to have some, well, at least a presence that's more, you know, not after the fact, but, I don't, you know, like, you know, occasionally a vehicle of law enforcement goes by a road or something, makes people think.
Yeah.
Well, years ago, people didn't want to see a Windsor police car, but I think now with the limited, almost non-existence availability of the state police by contract, probably people would be more open to other options, because really they're not an option anymore. So we're gonna have to go with something else, you know? I think people are more aware to the drug problem in Hartland.
It's everywhere in Upper Valley,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Again, Mary, this is by their own admission that they don't have the staff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I understand that. It's unfortunate, but, because I like their training. I think they're really professional. And let me just add, I think whoever the town chooses, those people should have really a lot of mental health training.
Right.
Because that just seems to keep popping up. People, they're dealing with people who are having mental health crises.
Yeah, I think we're all paying attention to national news and just the changes that are slowly becoming and the yo-yo effect of what's happening in New York City. They went one way and now they're going another way and so on and so forth. We're not New York City, but we are, we're all caught up in
What's the
this.
yo-yo that they've been going through?
They had a scorpion-like unit for a long time. They disbanded it. The mayor changed. Now the new mayor wants more people caught. So now they have a new unit. So, Constable, do you want to make any comments? I mean, you've had some interesting sort of situations over the last months, mostly speeding and so on.
Well, one of my concerns is whether or not state police is gonna sign the contract. And historically, they sign it, whether they can fill it or not. They sell us a bill of goods and they don't deliver it.
Mhm.
I mean, right now we've got virtually no coverage from them. I would much rather see somebody come in and take over that contract and work with the committee. So at least we have, especially daytime coverage
Mhm.
of some sort. Something's better than nothing. And nothing is what we've got right now.
Thank you.
You've got you, Jim.
Excuse me?
We have you.
At night.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. I do think that the changes potentially ahead are gonna be substantial and different than what the town has had previously. So I do think it would be good to get town input and do a town meeting. In my opinion, it's gonna be much different than probably Mary's or yourselves on what the town's needs are. So it'd be good to get that input. And I would agree with what Jim was saying, is having someone there, because right now we have nothing virtually. And when an emergency arises, you need something, then, you can't wait an hour potentially.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. Ryan, did you have any short comments you wanted to make or observations as we think about this process of evaluating?
Well, I don't know if I've ever had a short comment in my life, but a couple things to think about. One, I met with Matt Birmingham and his majors, so Matt Birmingham, Carroll State Police, 3 days ago, Tuesday. They don't want these contracts. They can't fulfill them. There's a clause that basically we'll fill them if we can. So I think that's off the table, right? And you look at the Windsor Police Department, the town of Windsor, we're not going to provide service, in my opinion, that's chair of the select board over there. It's going to be very much advantageous to us, even at $65,000-$70,000, that basically buys us half a body. And I think Hartland would demand much more service than that. So again, it's degrading the service in Windsor if we're providing service and it's not, Brownsville pays $108,000 a year for service. And the call volume in Heartland's significantly more. So
With that 108,000, what does that cover for West Windsor?
15 to 20 hours roughly of patrol and then 24-hour response.
Okay.
With a 7% increase.
So
per year.
they're available 24/7 and it's 15 hours guaranteed to that town, give or take.
It's roughly 15, I think it says between 15 and 20 hours
Yeah.
that they patrol through. And then Windsor's 24-hour service, so they're able to respond to calls 24 hours, 24/7. So what I'm looking at offering is for that 65,000 you have budgeted already, we could provide it 20 hours of service. My goal is to have about 16 hours of coverage as far as calls for service response. I'm also, I live around Main Street in Windsor next to Price Chopper, so it's a very quick response if it's something pretty serious that I need to get called out for backup. I've been in office, since Wednesday. Body cameras, cruiser cameras showed up. We spent $50,000 on that. I've got guys going, I sent my administrative lieutenant. This is Lad Wilbur, he's gonna be my patrol lieutenant, comes with, I worked for 17 years in Wyndham County, worked for what, another 10? 10 for the state of Vermont,
And
for,
the difference in the two counties it's amazing.
yeah.
Because in Wyndham County, they just gotten the sheriff's office.
The sheriff's is providing most of the
We do it
service.
all. You just-
So he's bringing a lot of
So
experience.
I'm trying to adjust.
Yeah, but he's bringing a lot of experience to the table. He worked for the state for many years. So we're professionalizing the agency in rather quickly. I've changed kind of the chain of command structure. I have 4 sergeants. 3 of them are patrol. 1 is primarily court security. They have they're averaging 25 to 30 years of full-time police experience, mainly in municipalities. So the experience is there. I've hired 5 people that have started or starting this week. 2 of which are level 3 certified folks that come with a lot of experience. We have, I know there's a hang up on level 2 and level 3 certifications, but we can get into that. But we will always have supervision on that can handle whatever's going to come in, So my thought is, I have the people now. I'm in the process of hiring and building this up for some expectations. We have a lot of other towns that are picking up in July, but my thought is give us a chance to maybe start picking up some of these hours. James is now working for me full time, so that's going to cut into your constable availability. It's just the fact, like he's not going to be as available. Probably he's going to be working court security for us a fair amount of time, whereas transition him into patrol a little bit as things go. But his availability is probably going to be more limited than it was when he was, working for himself. But we're willing to step up. You talked about, a big thing for me is community problem solving. You guys have spent, when I stopped in this last meeting, you spent the last 10 years discussing an intersection that the whole thing started because somebody ran a stop sign. That to me is a problem. It's been a problem. State police provides you, I believe, 1 hour of service. And Dave, correct me if I'm wrong, was it one hour of service last month on a 60-hour contract? We'll step in and give you a minimum of 20 to start, and we'll be strategic on how we use our grant money. And again, if there's issues, I want to be a community problem solver. I want to work on some of the proactive steps to keep people out of the system. I know it's big on, hearing what Phyllis said. We want to be part of your community. We're not just state police that's here. And one of the things you have to think about with this contract, that even though you have the state police, those are all people that are on overtime that have worked a 40-hour shift, and they're just here making time and a half because it's an easy thing to sit in Hartland and maybe write a ticket, maybe stop a few cars. I mean, Dave, I'm sure gets a report. They're not doing anything for you when they're here now. We want to be part of the solution. We want to be your law enforcement, your local law enforcement that steps in and is part of your community.
Not running your local
Right.
department because we'll tailor a contract to what your needs are. So one of the things the sheriff's office offers more than state police do.
Oh, yeah.
Sure,
Sorry. Again, it's Lad Wilbur, he's my patrol lieutenant.
Yeah, couldn't help but point this out. One thing the sheriff's office would do, and I retired from the state, but is at the state, you just write whatever the state statute is. But if you were working, if you're contracting with a local town, you're gonna write ordinances for that town. So your stop signs, you get a certain amount of that revenue back if we're out there and we write under that. We write under the local ordinance, you get that revenue back. As long as you adopt those state signs.
Current ordinances.
Yes, yeah, so you write the same thing under the 1008, which is the local ordinance.
It's not, we're not saying, hey, we're out there generating money, but we are essentially going to be your small town police department.
Right.
And at the end of the
You have
day,
to say us.
right.
You can call one of us and we can come explain if something didn't go right, where you didn't like something. Whereas you're not getting that. You just don't get that from the state level.
Right.
Whereas we're local.
end of the day, I'm a politician, right? My goal is to get reelected, so I need my constituents to be happy. So customer service is at the top of my list of what we should be doing. And working with you folks, generally probably via your town manager to make sure that things are being achieved that you want achieved.
I have a question. Are any of the sergeants or the patrol sergeants, are they CIT certified, or do you have plans to Mary's question about mental health? CIT is
Crisis
crisis
intervention.
intervention training.
Oh.
So, I don't know I don't have a trainer in front of me. But my goal is to have every one of our officers or deputies be trained to respond to these calls for service that involve crisis. We'll call it crisis, right? I went to the FBI crisis negotiator school. It was one of the best times in my life. So I have that connection to that agent is now retired. So bringing him in, doing some in-house training on that end of it, working closer with HCRS. We plan on having a social worker on board. I would suspect in this calendar year. We spent all day today moving boxes and desks around, and it was a physical mess that we were having to clean up on top of all the other stuff that we're doing. But
Yeah, like Bells Falls Police Department has a,
social worker
side.
Yeah, I know that's kind of the new and upcoming thing, is to have one either on
Yes.
call all the time or have one that works for the police department.
And then we can use it as a resource
Mhm.
to maybe come to the scene or call them,
Right.
or, just as a resource. And they might have more ability to deal with their, to offer them services on things that might help them deal with whatever issue they're in. But it's all local, and you're not getting, it's just, so Wyndham County, I don't think they have one, but we certainly have, Bells Falls
and state police
utilize
have used that, but we will have, Windsor has them. So that's on my list of things to accomplish in the next couple months, is to work closer with either HCRS, or I may want to hire in-house. It's just depending on what makes the most sense for us. But so we will have those services. So I guess I'm going to stop talking at you. And do you have any other, you guys
I
have
have
questions?
one
Yes.
more question, surprisingly, right? The SRO, if we chose to, like, this is looking forward, is that something that could be fulfilled? Because currently it's a Windsor
It's in Windsor also.
Police Department.
Yeah, and I think
covers
that, so, yes.
And I know that would be like
Right.
bringing the school in on the conversation,
Sure.
but is that something?
I'm a certified school resource officer. I love it. I'm a big proponent of school resource officers. I think the argument against them is based more on rhetoric than it is really in substance. But I think you have a good situation now because of the way the school systems, the supervisory unions, it's on my list of things that I want to start ticking off. I sent two of my deputies, as soon as I come in, hey, we're getting away from just sitting on the road writing tickets. One called me up today, he's so excited, he stopped in the Barnard School, introduced himself, which we've never done apparently. The principal was extremely excited, gave him a whole tour. Hey, we're gonna get you guys keys. If there's anything that happens, we want you guys to be able to respond.
Building that relationship
building
with the
a
community,
relationship,
and more community type.
And letting people know that.
So the principal could call us, right? So the kids see us,
Right,
and
and they feel comfortable,
yeah,
because
yeah,
sometimes.
like, one of we do, like public safety days at schools, and we'll have the fire department come in, we'll be there, and like we brought our canine in, kids love canines, and we let the kids use our radars,
Mhm.
with the cars going by, so they were using our radars and seeing how the speed we're working. We have the little badges, and just, it's more of a community policing type thing to be there if they need something, or let them know we're there for them. That's the sole purpose of we're there, and a contact for teachers and faculty, and because I've had schools tell me, because they're rural, they're way out, and they don't have plans. They don't have, these bad incidents. They don't have good plans. I'd like to see us go to each school, in different areas, and just come up with a plan so that have a better idea.
Each one of our sergeants will be assigned certain towns that will be kind of your point of contact for the everyday stuff, obviously, us for kind of the higher end stuff, but you will have kind of your resident deputy that is your point of contact for the everyday stuff. Hey, they're speeding on, Queechee Road. Can someone look into that? Boom, we'll have somebody there. So, and
Well, I think it's an interesting convergence where we as a town will take the time to think about our safety and what we're thinking about as you are beginning to grow and shape what your services will be. So we'll stay in touch. I think that's the best we can do right now.
Sure, it's fine. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for your time.
If you have any questions, you can certainly get a hold of Brian.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are people comfortable with the proposed format that we form a committee after sometime when we meet in March?
I think we need public hearings.
Yeah, and then we'll let the committee get going and have that public input, public meeting. Is that? Okay.
I just want to add, kind of hammered in, but a couple of people brought it up. I did speak to Lieutenant last week. He did reiterate that, kind of like they said, if asked, they would sign a contract. It would be for reduced hours. I will just say that he was here last July and said that we were going to get the hours that we signed for last time, and we haven't even remotely come close. He said this back in the fall or early December. He reiterated it again, that if we were to go with somebody else, they would not be heartbroken at all, would not take it personally, and basically reiterated that that is just fine.
It's not gonna hurt their
Not gonna hurt
feelings.
their feelings.
Okay.
And just want to reiterate officially that, yes, those extra hours that James has been picking up for us are going away. I expect to get maybe upwards to 10 a week, but he had been picking up 20 to 25. So that's going to dial back to, that was kind of, we picked that up in the absence of some of the state police hours that we had, and now we're losing that as well.
And our state police contract is until when?
Renews July 1st.
Brian, yes.
yeah, I just wanted, and I appreciate that you folks need to take some time and put some thought into this, but for our end, sooner than later I have to really plan, because getting people spun up, especially training new people, I'm sending 4 to the part-time school.
Thank you for saying that, but we'll do our best. We owe it to our town to do the right thing.
No, I totally understand that. We may not be available if you come to me, July or June 30th.
Ronnie, don't play hardball here. Were you just sort of saying you wouldn't be available, maybe?
Well, what I'm saying is that I don't know if I'm going to have the staffing if this drags on and on.
Okay, well, we'll factor that in.
All right, I'm not sure if you have to play hardball. I'm just saying that for planning purposes, it takes me a lot to spin up people. So if
Sure.
you're looking at July, I'm not saying I need an answer next week. I'm just saying that it is a consideration that I don't know that we'll be able, if you drag it out to June, I don't know if I'll be able to provide the service, is all I'm saying.
All right, okay, thank you for that. Thanks. Okay. Any other thoughts or comments on safety policing?
One more thing.
Yes.
Again, I was the academy, I think, under Bill Sorrell, will provide better training for all the cops in municipal, county, state. I think as citizens, we can be well assured that the quality of the police officer, not that it's bad now, but will be enhanced by training. I firmly believe that.
Thank you. Okay, I don't have the agenda in front of me. Moving on to select board communication with outside agencies.
Yeah, this is an agenda item, based upon some communication I had recently with, Agency of Transportation. This. So it was brought to my attention, through communication that Hartland Selectboard, or a member of the Select Board, has communicated with them, regarding 3 covered bridges. The status of these bridges and grant funding, available for these bridges. The main concern on the conversation back to me was, what they reiterated is the desire to have one individual from the town to be the main contact for communication, whether it be for municipal, state projects, whether it be for grants, emergency response. I deal with them a lot after storms and FEMA events, to provide yearly information, whether that be simple items like the T60s, which is the municipal yearly financial plan, or other items that I may have to submit to them. Already based upon some of the feedback that I got, was some confusion as to whether, basically been working with them for the past 6 weeks or so on the Jennyville Road culvert. There was some confusion as to whether we would be submitting a grant for the Jennyville Road culvert or perhaps a covered bridge. Now, they could have overreacted, or, but the conversation was somewhat direct to me, and kind of a desire to keep things again with that line of communication that has existed in the past. Part of what they have to say also is that they are busy. They don't like to duplicate the information to multiple people. They did point out some of the other towns that kind of act in this manner. Unfortunately, Chelsea and Bridgewater, of all towns, kind of came up in that discussion. Just again, kind of the confusion of kind of stop and go and turnover in those particular towns. Not sure where they are at this point with Hartland, but again, just some of the difficulties that have been presented. I'd just like to point out, and I did bring in Bob Fletcher a couple of weeks ago to just kind of outline the relationship between the town manager and the select board, actually with other members of the town as well.
That was you.
My daughter's diabetes. Excuse me. I'm okay. Thank you.
Just to kind of outline the relationship between the select board and the town manager. The particular person I dealt with at the agency, he kind of expressed that in the town manager form of government, that's who he's accustomed to dealing with. That's kind of the way that the town manager form of government is outlined, and a lot of what Bob kind of described as well. So I just wanted to bring this up. I wanted to kind of revisit this. Again, concept of the town manager form of government, what we discussed. Who is responsible for the direct communication with agencies such as the Agency of Transportation, and how that has worked in the past, and hopefully we can continue to do that in the future. I'll just point out that Agency of Transportation, particularly in this region, has been very good to us. We worked on Martinsville Road, Sinkhole, we worked on Clay Hill Road. They did bring in people for Mill Street. They were instrumental in bringing in the federal funding for Mill Street Bridge. Just numerous projects above and beyond that, including the paving that we just did on County Road. It's just been a good relationship. And I was kind of sorry to field that phone call, and hopefully we can continue to move on.
That's embarrassing, actually.
Well, let's stop there for me, because I sent a question for the attorneys. specifically about Martinsville Bridge 22. Wanted to know,
Jim, can you speak up a little bit?
I sent an email question to V-Trans about the Martinsville Bridge. I'm sorry, about the Mill Street Bridge, Bridge 22, right? Just to see if it was on their radar for the next fiscal year. Okay. So the answer is yes. The additional information that they supplied was that the Martinsville Bridge has issues as well. And it's up to us, or it's up to town manager, to submit a request for a grant by April 15th, if we want to get that bridge repaired. So I thought that was helpful information. So whoever this is from V-Trans, I'd be happy to have a conversation with them, with you, to make sure that we can smooth things over.
Don't. You could have asked,
However,
Dave
if
all of this
I
information.
feel I need to do some research outside of this room and ask a question,
Ask Dave,
not give direction,
ask Dave.
I will ask that question.
That's embarrassing. That's not
Well,
our role. You ask him. He finds out the answers. We are policy, vision,
I'm
mission,
also a citizen. And
but
I
not
have
on
a
this,
question.
not on this.
I have a question.
You're a select board member. You're a select board member. You're a team player.
I-
He's the
We disagree.
he's the town manager.
So can I,
May I-
Yes.
just let me just
I'm
make
making
a
no.
No, wait, time out. I'm going to let people speak, and I have comments, and I'm hoping others will as well. Dave, if you want to clarify something?
Yeah, just, and this is part of what creates the confusion and kind of the chaos is that there,
I mean, is there going to be a chaos?
there-
Asking the question.
but the grants are every year. We are in the middle of implementing Jennyville Road culvert on this. I had mentioned at a select board meeting prior, the second option that she responded to was also to get it on a priority list with the Regional Planning Commission, of which it was number 6 last year, of which we think it may be within the top 3 the next time this comes up.
Which one, Martinsville or? No?
Martinsville. And so this is, it's not like it's been forgotten. It's not like it's been lost. I've worked with V-Trans. It's why
Right, that was.
Mill Street has popped up. It's why, this has not been lost. So by, all of a sudden this is, oh my God, we gotta get this in by April 15th. Well, no, we don't.
Right.
I mean, I'd like to, but we've got other things that are going on, and it's not like Martinsville Road has been forgotten about. It's actually been picked up for the first time in years. So that's just what happens when we get too many people, hands on the cookie jar.
Okay. So I would love to have a conversation with that person to see what their reaction is.
Jim, I've read the correspondence, and you're not going to have that conversation with V-Trans. I can tell you that very clearly. My comments. You seem to always state that your actions happen because you care about the town. And I honestly believe that. But it seems you're always searching for the next person, the group, or the issue that you can be part of without respecting the role of what the select board member is and what the town manager does. I believe that tolerance is always a work in progress, and I think I've been pretty tolerant for a number of months now. But with this latest disruption, and I'm talking about this what we were just, Dave brought to our attention with both the head engineer, state engineer, as well as our local V-Trans representative, I feel I need to speak up. You asked in the most recent executive session, which was just amongst ourselves as select board members, that you get called out when something like that happened. I'm calling you out. I know you know that I've been trying to do this privately. And I'm doing it privately because I too love this town and don't want to have a disruption at the select board level. I feel you are creating an atmosphere of dysfunction for Clyde, Mandy, Mary, myself, Dave, and yourself by your actions. I have a long list of things that some are just borderline, but when you add them all up, it's been a disruptive time as you sort of present things, and it's been non-productive and abusive of our role as select board members. So I'm going to end it there, but I'm going to ask Dave to review our rules and procedures, which we passed last May. And we will renew every year at the start of the new select board year. To add language in a policy statement that clearly states the roles of the town manager versus the select board member. We had an attorney in the executive session give us a document, go to VLCT and it's spelled out. But hopefully this will clarify the respective roles and the boundaries to enable us to be a more productive select board. So thank you. I would like to move on from this unfortunate situation. What's the next item?
Mayor Campbell.
Okay, we have a Mayor Campbell request.
So if need be, we can go into executive session. Hopefully we can do this perhaps without keeping it very broad and general. We spoke a little bit about this last meeting, if not on the 23rd, maybe it was on the 17th. This is the same situation. We have an individual in town, Hartland resident. This was brought forth to us by the community nurse, somebody that she has a relationship with. The gentleman has a fixed income. It is about, let me just put it this way, the fixed income is enough to cover rent with about $200 left over for the month. This is an instance where the car needs to be inspected. The estimate is $1,398 for the estimate. There's 4 or 5 things that need to be done to this in order to get it to inspection. The understanding seems to be that once it's inspected, it will be, okay to be driven for the foreseeable future. It's a 2005 vehicle. It didn't sound like, yeah, we're going to get this fixed and then we're going to keep our fingers crossed as to, whether it goes in about a week or not. If you want to get into more details of that, I suggest perhaps we follow the policy that was set out by us by Jim and go into an executive session. But I think otherwise, it is an estimate. There's some understanding that it's possible that it could go over, but I think that we'll try and keep them. Martin has worked in the auto industry, so if it doesn't line up or make sense, then we'll.
Mark,
What is him?
We'll
I didn't realize that labor rates are really.
put his, bandit, mask on and we'll go over and have him stick to the estimate, but otherwise just know that there's it's an estimate, but best that we could do given the circumstances.
Okay, so I make a motion that we authorize 1,000 something, what is it?
Why don't we say 1,500?
$1,500 from the Candle Merit Fund to be used
For the purposes of.
auto repair and inspection.
Okay, perfect. Oh, that's good.
I'll second it.
Okay. Any discussion? Do we know if there's any other contributors to this? I know it's a changing landscape out there with the Christmas market.
Yep, there were no other contributors. We did have a brief discussion on that. There was an effort to look at other contributors that might be involved. This is one of those, and now and then they do fall through the cracks, and that's what this fund is best for.
Yeah.
Nothing that lined up magically to make this happen.
Okay. Any other questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you, Dave. Is it correspondence?
Town manager
Oh,
update.
town manager. Okay.
That would be you, David.
So it's possible that you received the town meeting mailer in the mail. It goes out every year prior to the town report. Its main function is to, other than to present the lovely town select board update or report, is to let you know that the actual town report will be out about February 20th, and it can be picked up at Mike's and three corners market, the library here, online as well. So that's the main impetus, is to get that out. It will be out before the school meeting, which I think is the week before. That, I don't know the exact date on it. What is it, the 20th? 28th, okay. So the town, in order to make that all happen, the town report is scheduled to go to the printer this Friday. I meet tomorrow morning with the architect regarding the rec center in Damon Hall. As I kind of indicated to you, I will be looking for feedback from him, a scope of things for the two buildings, and then kind of narrowing that scope down and pointing him to, or having him move forward on that as well. Jennyville Road culvert, the RFP to the engineers went out last Friday, I think. They will be due back on March 3rd. We will work on that. Design would be due to us at the end of July. Most likely, all due respect, it will not go to work for this summer. It will be the summer after. Again, we're working on a structures grant on that to help offset the costs, which is pegged for ARPA funds as well. So we got RFPs coming back. If all things were to move forward, we would have this summer, we would have the Three Corners intersection project, the culvert next summer. Working or in the pipeline is the rec center in Damon Hall. At some point, we'll need to, I'll begin working on an RFP for Queechee Road. Kind of an interesting one to put together, and we'll work on that and getting that out, hopefully in the near future.
Okay, this summer, would we do the east side of Clayville Road, the paving there, or
That is the plan, yeah.
And tell me, in the notes, you talk about that the state possibly would be able to have grant monies rather than going for federal monies with the Jennyville project.
So kind of a different, so a while back, Jim had asked about mitigation grants, some other things at VLCT on the website. That is federal money, involves a much more complex process. We're gonna bring on not that this is bad, but you bring on a project manager, the timeline is more like 4 to 5 years on that. A little bit much more in depth and detailed. Speaking with V-Trans, consensus is it doesn't need to be that detailed. It doesn't have the same, it's gonna cover less of the grant. Depending on how much it costs, it's not gonna be a full 80 to 90% coverage that maybe the mitigation grant would have. But it certainly would help offset, and it's just a quicker, smoother state money, and regional V-Trans guys would be the go-to folks on that. So just helpful, but just keeps it moving along as well.
Any questions for Dave on this?
As you may know, I'm one of the few elderly people that still jogs, not in this weather. Dave, I'm wondering if that path, the jogging path around the soccer field and the library, if there's any extra stone available. There's some patches of it was totally grassed over, not a lot, but my guess is if it costs $200 in stone and maybe $120 in labor, that might do it. So
Yeah,
I don't want to get hands and knees and beg, but.
Yeah, we've kind of got that on the board to be done at some point in the future. I think that the consensus is by just putting the rocks down, there's something more needs to be done to it, otherwise we just get the growth right back through. Whether we excavate out some of the lawn or use a different material, or, I think that the jury's still out.
Jogging.
What's that?
I'm not giving up jogging.
Nor should you. Actually, it's still a nice little circle to jog on.
You should think of it as English cross country, where they put mud on the fields.
Yes.
and,
And I'll.
We want to keep you.
Thank you.
That's for 18-year-olds, so it's.
No comment.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
Dave, is there any correspondence?
We have none.
Future agenda items are
There's nothing listed.
nothing. Okay, then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn at 7:45. Or 6:45, excuse me, 6:45.
Really?
That's amazing.
I've got one.